Is anybody out there, this is a strange way to start this episode out, but has anybody out there ever known they have an HR meeting at 4 o'clock and you have a feeling it's not going to go well, but you get into the office at your usual 9 a.m., you sit down at your desk, you're at your computer. Well, the Bengals are at about 12 o'clock right now until that meeting, and it's just kind of feels like that inevitable is only paces away. Welcome back on the Jungle Fever podcast, a downtrodden Jungle Fever podcast today. I'm Ethan Sargent. Aiden Crowley is alongside me. The Bengals played a football game last night, and that's about all the positive things we
Did
can
they?
really say. But I don't know if that's what you define a football game, then maybe not. 28-3 was the final score. It probably could have been about 40-3 if Denver really cared late in that game. Um, I don't really see like
Every DIY.
the way to I don't know what's that was you, not me.
That
My
was me.
God.
My bad. My bad.
I think the big thing with this is I just think that when you look at how the Bengals have played in this game and how the the Bengals have operated throughout this season, it's just a constant failure from the jump. Think about it, even those first two games, they start 2-0, right? Failure. They didn't play well in either of those games, right? They got pretty lucky to win against Jacksonville. They had a kicker meltdown against Cleveland, or for Cleveland, I should say. And then you have whatever we've seen the last 2 weeks, which they make some of the high school teams I cover here in Southeast Ohio look like Super Bowl contenders with the way they've played over the last couple weeks. And I'm going to let you kind of dive into some more specifics here, but I don't really know where they go from here besides, like I said, going back to my initial analogy, it kind of feels like that person that's sitting at the desk waiting for the HR meeting is Zach Taylor. I think the writing is on the wall. I think from the second Joe Burrow went down, really, I think the writing has been on the wall because clearly now the last couple weeks we've seen just how valuable number nine is to this team, right? I think the only player this is going to be a weird thing to say, but the only player that truly is going to benefit from this in terms of like national perception is Joe Burrow because people are going to realize, well, damn, they're really not that good without that guy at quarterback. So, Aiden, I'll turn it over to you for some more specifics on what you saw last night. I don't know how many positives you can really take away, if any.
Uh,
You can break down some of the
None.
bad.
None. It was just flat out embarrassing. Okay, so this is my thing, right? So you lose in Minnesota the way that you did, right? And the expectation or the conversation around that game was that was a fluke. You turned the ball over 5 times. That's what the score is going to be every time you turn the ball over 5 times, right? But this is your opportunity in a national spotlight game with an extra day of preparation to go out and prove
And they
that
only
that's
turned the
not
ball
you.
over. They only turned
That
the
what
ball over
happened in
once last
Minnesota.
night, right?
Right, right.
Yeah.
So you had that opportunity. It was right in front of you. And instead, they came out flat. They got ran over and just absolutely bulldozed. The
Denver hadn't had
offense
a
was
100-yard rusher in 34 games before last
mhm.
night. J.K. Dobbins.
None in the Sean Payton era.
Yep.
It was uninspiring on offense. They were outgained 559. They had more penalty yards than first downs. It's just they looked unprepared. They looked like they didn't want to be there. It looked like after that false start call on that second drive of the
Terrible
game,
call, by the
that
way.
was
I'll give him
not
the
the
benefit
right
of the doubt.
call. It wasn't the right call. That was bad. But like the moment that happened, they just folded. It looked like they just gave up, and that's
My
concerning. They just didn't want to be there.
it's indicative. That's my biggest thing with this, right? Is look, this is 2 weeks in a row now that in by my estimations, this team's quit. And number one, that's inexcusable. I don't care if you're playing in the National Football League or if you're playing in middle school. Quitting in the game is inexcusable. And the Bengals have done that now 2 weeks in a row, right? Where they look checked out. they look like they don't want to be there. They look like they couldn't care less, right? And obvious, obviously these players care, right? They want to win, but is how much winning are they really going to do when all this is happening? And my big takeaways from this game, number one, the Al Golden hire as a schematic thing was the Bengals front office kind of saying, look, we believe in what we see in our guys. We just needed a new voice. Right. And I'm not saying that firing Lou Anarumo and hiring Al Golden was necessarily a bad move. That's not who I'm pinpointing the blame on for this. I actually, believe it or not, don't really blame Al Golden that much right now. The talent level on this defense is just not where it needs to be. It, they were banking on guys developing, and that just has not happened. In terms of defensive edge rushers, Miles Murphy's pressure rate is just a tick under 6%. That is good for
5.3.
107th. That is good for 107th out of 118 edge rushers that have qualified with enough snaps. The only edge rusher the Bengals have, you're going to be shocked at this name. You're not going to believe it. Trey Hendrickson, the only edge rusher in the top 20. The next closest Bengal is Joseph Osai, who's in the low 70s.
Mm, Shamar Stewart's at
Well,
15.
with the exception, he didn't play
Right,
yesterday, so he
right, right.
gets a pass. But um,
Yeah, Osai's at
at least, at
7.9.
least you've seen something out of 97, right? Miles Murphy's leash is, in fact, gone, in my opinion. You've seen next to nothing. This is now year three, right? And this was a first round pick that you invested the year after you went to an AFC Championship game, and that was expected to kind of take the reins alongside Trey Hendrickson and maybe even develop into a guy that could play at his level. And it just has not happened. And I don't even know whether to blame Murphy or to blame the staff around him or to blame both. I think the answer is probably somewhere in the middle. Um, I think that when you've seen moving through the defense, right? At least Demetrius Knight got an interception. I thought he played a decent game. One of the very few, not even I don't even want to say bright spots, just spots. He did all right, right? Made a nice play on that pick. Um, then you've got the secondary, and I think that's the most glaring issue right now. Cam Taylor-Britt, second round pick in 2022. DJ Turner, second round pick in 2023. Jordan Battle, third round pick in 2023. Geno Stone, big free agent contract. Dax Hill, first round pick in 2022. Dax Hill,
Dax has been good.
at
He's
least you're
been our second
seeing
best
some
player on defense.
at least you're seeing something from Dax Hill. The
It's not
rest of these
saying it's not
guys,
saying it's not saying a whole lot that he's the second best player on
exactly.
defense.
The rest of these guys just have not developed flat out. And again, this is going to be my big point that I want to make on the show today. This is I came through it, and there's one big point that I want to make. You can blame Zach Taylor, right? And he deserves plenty of blame, and I think he is a dead man walking. Um, but Duke Tobin's got to go. I
Yeah.
think that at the end of the day, you can only blame Zach so much. At the end of the day, Zach Taylor is part of the draft process, but he doesn't make the final call on a lot of these players. Duke Tobin does. He's not even a real GM. Hire a real GM.
Yep.
It's mind-boggling. We're the only team in the NFL that doesn't do this. Every
I
other team in the NFL has more than two people in their scouting department, not the Bengals. And there's a reason why these guys aren't developing because number one, they don't spend enough time or money or resources on scouting. And then when they do draft these players, they don't know what to do with them. And this is what happens, right?
yeah.
Let's go back just a couple of years, right? The Bengals drafted quite a few good players, right? I think about a certain safety that happens to be in Atlanta right now. And then what did they decide to do with him? Let him walk. Have the Bengals been to not saying this is the only reason, but have the Bengals been to a playoff game since Jesse Bates left? Nope. Obviously, plenty of reasons besides that, but he was a key player. They let him go, right? You drafted in the second round, they drafted a very high level player and they let him go. And then when you try to replicate that formula, you get players like the guys that they have in the secondary right now who just flat out aren't good enough. And then what do I even say about the offensive line? Um, at least the guards were okay. I'll give the two rookies some credit because I think that those two were the two, again, I don't want to say bright, but they were two of the spots. Thought Jalen Rivers held his own in his first start. He wasn't great, he wasn't amazing, but he held his own. Same with Dylan Fairchild, who was okay. Probably not as good as he's had, but okay. Right? For guys who were drafted in third and fifth round early in your NFL career, that's fine. Now the other three, flat out inexcusable, how bad they were. Ted Karras, that extension, we talked about that a couple weeks ago as being smart money. Maybe it wasn't, because this guy looks washed. He looks like he forgot how to play the position. He's getting murdered on these rushes. He can't run block. He's never been a particularly good run blocker, but now it's just a flat out can't.
None of the offensive line is good at run blocking.
No,
Literally none of them.
no. And Amarius Mims had maybe his worst game as a Bengal yesterday. It was rough. I mean, they got, and look, Denver's got a great edge rushing duo, Nick Benito, Jonathan Cooper. Both of those guys are some of the best in the business. What round were those guys drafted in, by the way? Remind me. But again, Jonathan Cooper, seventh round pick, had his way, right? Nick Benito was a third, fourth round pick, had his way, right? I, Orlando Brown Jr. looks washed. He looks like somebody who Look, the thing about Orlando Brown Jr. is his athleticism has never been right. He had, I think, a point four RAS score, like it was really bad. But like he's always been a fundamental mechanics guy, and that's just disappeared. Um, I don't even like a lot of people are throwing blame at Browning. He wasn't good, but what's he supposed to do? Like he's getting swallowed up within a second.
I will say, okay, with the Browning conversation, right? There were multiple times in that game that
Yes,
there
I know
was
where
a
you're going with this. Yep.
that there was a read that was there, and Browning just either missed it or was rather taking something a little bit more sure.
Hmm.
And I think about that again, that second drive. It was a third down. He had Jamar on a hook, and he had Gesicki going right behind him on like a little levels concept with a too high safety look,
Yeah, I
where
know
the
exactly
ball
what play you're talking about.
should
Yep.
be going to the middle of the field. That's where you should be looking, and he plays for the completion, which is fine. That's what we're asking him to do, is kind of be a little bit more of a point guard. But at the same time, Gesicki's there for like a 20
There,
yard gain. You know,
there were a number
there's
of.
moments where you felt
Go
like you
ahead.
could have kind
Yeah.
of gone for it and he didn't. Now, on the list of issues, he is well down the list of issues, right? And you knew this going in. You knew this with a backup quarterback, that there was obviously going to be setbacks. There's going to be throws that he should make that probably he isn't going to make. Maybe that jump ball to T Higgins on that first drive, that needs to be a competitive throw. I
Yeah.
don't I don't mind going to the jump ball. I don't, but the ball can't land outside the white. It just
Yeah.
can't. It's not a
The
competitive throw. You
the
have to
throw to
let your guy make a
Jamar
play.
that got the throw to Jamar where he ran the little kind of skinny out or a corner, I guess, and he had Surtain cooked. Like a lot of, I'll say this, a lot of people are touting Surtain's and Surtain played well, but a lot of people are touting that Jamar was open in this game a lot. And he just didn't get the ball, particularly on this play. Joe Burrow completes this pass like 90% of the time. The one where he goes up and the safety came underneath it and got a hand on it and knocked it away. Um, like Joe Burrow completes that pass. I have probably about 90% chance Joe Burrow gets that ball in there, right? Jake Browning can't do that. And that's not on anybody in particular. That's just Jake Browning is not as good as Joe Burrow. I couldn't believe the narratives that people were running with that, look, I just said it a second ago. The only thing positive that's going to come out of what likely is a lost season for the Bengals here is that Joe Burrow's reps only going to go up because people are going to realize, well, this guy's pretty freaking good at football, and he has somehow carried this team the last couple of years to relevancy.
Yeah,
That
but T and Jamar need to be more involved. Look, like
I agree. I
if you are
agree.
gonna try and turn this around, I don't know how, based off of how you've looked the past 2 weeks. Again, I thought this week was supposed to be, you know, deviation from what you were, but instead it was confirmation of what you are. For Jamar to have 5 catches for 23 yards and for T to have 3 catches for 32 yards is just that's inexcusable. That just can't happen. Again, it goes back to the point where it's like they looked unprepared. And I want to say this, because this happens every late September, early October. The fire Zach Taylor stuff is just such a stupid conversation to have at this point in the
I
season.
agree.
It
I
is
agree.
so incredibly
It's not
stupid.
happening.
It's just not gonna
Yeah.
happen. I don't want to entertain it. If guess what? If we finish the year, whatever, 4-13,
He's
then
gone.
we can talk. Then
Yeah.
we can have it. But to have it in week 5 is just so you don't know the Bengals. And guess what? Let's say they do fire Zach Taylor. What does that look like for the rest of the year?
Yeah, what do they do? I mean, Dan
What do
Pitcher
they do? What do
probably,
you need them to do?
honestly, who's probably the head coach the rest of the year? It's probably Darren Simmons because of seniority and how long he's been with the organization. By the way, special teams yesterday was a disaster. Ryan
Every
Rico
phase
was
of the game was a disaster.
awful early in the game. You want to know the only Bengals player right now who could probably hold their head high so far this season? Evan McPherson hasn't missed a kick. I mean, I, sure,
Yeah, but
you'll take
I
it, right?
I want to go back to what you said because I think it's true. If you are throwing Zach Taylor under the bus and you are burying him right now, and he
Mhm.
deserves some of the blame. They flat out looked unprepared. I agree with you. I'm not sitting here being a Zach Taylor defender, right? I think he has so many issues. You look at some of the communication issues on offense. There was at one point in the drive, they went what? False start,
Yep.
delay a game, like
Yep.
in 3 straight plays.
And the
Okay,
worst part about that is that's not a Browning problem because that sort of stuff
same
happened with
happened. Yep,
Burrow in the game.
yep. Yeah, so so
That's
I'm
a
with you.
coaching issue.
I'm with you. I'm absolutely with you. But if you're doing that, you better keep the same energy for Duke Tobin in this front office
I agree.
because this
Thousand
season
percent.
is so much more of an indictment on them and their
I agree.
failure than it is on Zach Taylor. Listen, and I'm someone who's going to say I don't think necessarily Zach Taylor gets some of the flowers that he deserves. He took that horrific Bengals offensive line to a Super Bowl. Were they carried by the defense a little bit? Yes. Joe Burrow obviously helps. But at a certain point, the head coach needs a little bit of credit for having the worst offensive line in the league and taking them to the Super Bowl. And
Mhm.
again, there's been some off the field issues that have sometimes followed the Bengals and into this locker room. Have you heard one thing about that from this Bengals locker room in Zach Taylor's time as head coach? No, there hasn't been a, there's been no
Again,
leadership
I've always said he's a
issues.
great culture builder. I
That's what I'm
still
saying.
stand by
Like
it.
he just doesn't get the flowers he deserves sometimes. Now, I'm not again, if things blow up and whatever, we probably just need a new voice and we need to move on, but I'm not having that conversation right now. I'm
Well,
not.
I think the big thing I want to add to that, I said this earlier with the Al Golden stuff, right? And again, there's a reason why I don't particularly blame Al Golden. And again, I think, like I said, I agree with you on this. I think the biggest single issue with the season right now, and again, a lot of these, I'll say this quietly, a lot of these issues would still be apparent with Joe Burrow.
Yes.
It is this season through 4 games is a complete and utter indictment on Duke Tobin and that front office because of the draft capital that they continue to chuck at the defense and second round pick, third round pick, first round pick, second round pick. And they continue to fall flat year after year after year. They get dud after dud. There's a reason why they spent so many draft picks on the defensive side because, shocker, they paid everybody that's been fantastic for them offensively. And those guys deserve their money. I'm not saying they don't. But they've also neglected to address their offensive line. They continue to languish and pretend like it's not an issue. Guess what? Joe Burrow's had a third season, most likely than not, season-ending injury in 6 seasons. Joe Burrow turns 30 next year.
That's
30.
the other thing too. You can't afford to sit here and try and figure it
Sit
out.
on your hands. You can't.
Because Burrow is going to be 30. He spent longer in college than most of these guys. I want to read these out real quick. I've been sitting here looking at this.
Go ahead.
This is the Bengals advanced statistics through 4 weeks of the season. Are you ready
They're
for
not
this?
good. I can tell you
We'll
that.
start with the offense. EPA per play, 31st.
That's bad.
By the way, they're in the same category
Is
as
the who's lower, the Titans or
the
the Browns?
Titans and the Browns.
Yeah.
The Browns are worse EPA. They're in that category. It's those three, and then everybody else in the league.
I
Okay,
wonder who the head coach of the Titans is.
points per
I wonder
drive.
what ties he has to the Bengals organization.
Points per drive, 30th. Success rate, 29th. Explosive play, 32nd. Red zone, they're tied for 8th. They've been not bad in the red zone. Third
Because they
down
never get
percentage,
there.
tied for 30th. All right, now let's flip over to the defense. EPA per play, 26th. Points per drive, 25th. Success rate, 29th. Explosive play rate, 19th. Red zone, 24th. Three and out, 15th. Overall, turnover margin, they are 26th in the league. That's just a bad football team through and through. Like that is a bottom five team in the league. And you think about this talent that's on this team and everything, there is no reason. I don't care if Jake Browning's your quarterback. You should be a middle of the pack team at the minimum with Jake Browning as your
Just
quarterback.
look at 23. Like they were with Jake Browning. They almost made the playoffs with Jake Browning.
You just can't run from these numbers. Like these numbers
Yeah.
tell you that they are a bottom five team in the league.
And think about a lot of the players, like a lot of the players on that 23 team are still here. A lot of them. And here we are. They look like a team that's going to be picking in the top five, right?
That's the
And
positive you can take away. Maybe we can get Caleb Downs on this team. That's a
that'd be
positive.
awesome. Again, he's a hell of a football player. Maybe even Ruben Bain out of Miami. I love him. He's an elite edge rusher. He's been fantastic. But like,
Losing my mind, Ethan. Mock draft talks in week
well,
four.
I'm right with you. I think it's ridiculous. There's no reason why we should be doing this right now. You think about all that positivity that we had just a month ago, right? And then even after the Browns game, right? Yeah, they didn't play particularly well, but the defense got some clutch turnovers and they found a way to win, right? That was a game the 24 Bengals lost like 80 times, and they found a way to win that game, right? And then what happens in week two happens. You lose Burrow or yet another unprecedented injury. And then you get pantsed by Minnesota, and now you get pantsed by Denver. Remind me who the Bengals play the next 3 weeks. Oh, right. They play the surging Lions, who are putting up just under 35 points a game. They play the Packers with Micah Parsons, who might have 8 sacks. And then they play the Steelers, who are 3-1. And while they haven't played, I don't think at a particularly crazy high level right now, they have to be your favorites to win the division. So they could be 2-5 before they even blink.
The Lions
And
have put up 124 points in the last 3 weeks. What do you
it's
think
not
they're going to
good.
do against that Bengals defense?
That's about, I can't do math. I'm not even going to try.
By the way, they opened up the week opened with Lions minus 8.5.
Three.
That line moved after Monday to 9.5. So,
I'd move it farther. I'd move it farther. I think I'd take anything under 14.
and the thing is, like, it's just such a structural problem, which is why it feels so hopeless right now, is because I don't think this gets turned around quickly. Like, I don't know how you scheme around this. I don't know how you scheme around an offensive line that has performed as poorly as it has. I don't know
I
how
don't
you.
even know who to, I'm running out of people to blame, Aiden. Like, I'm running out of fingers to point. Like, I, do I blame Zach? Do I blame the coach? Do I blame other coaches? Do I blame Dan Pitcher? Do I blame Scott
It falls
Peters?
on everyone.
Do I blame the players themselves?
I think
Do I continue to just stick my middle finger up at Mike Brown in the front office? Maybe. But like, I don't, I, I'm running out of words. I said this yesterday. I turned this game off in the fourth quarter. Why am I going to watch? There's no reason to watch this awful product. But Joe Buck and Troy Aikman were talking, I mean, they were high as a kite, but they were talking about it all night. Like, they were like, this team is unprepared. They are not ready to play and they are failing to execute. And if you don't do those three things, spoiler alert, you're not going to win a lot of games at any level, let alone the highest level.
yeah.
So
Okay, I'm sorry to cut you off again because this has just kind of
go
been this
ahead. I didn't really have much else
rant
to
for
say.
rant back and
Go
forth.
ahead.
But Zach Taylor post game, this is the thing
I
that
didn't see
frustrated.
this,
This is the
so
thing
go
that
ahead.
frustrated me the most. He says something along the lines of, and I'll try and find the quote while I'm kind of talking about this. But he basically says that it's a tough environment, it's a hostile environment when we've had back-to-back weeks where we've played on the road in these tough games against tough opponents. It's the NFL, Zach. Every week is a tough week. These are professional athletes. You are a professional football team. You will be in tough situations time and time and time again. It is your guys' job to figure out how to overcome it. You can't just sit there after you get your doors blown off by this Denver
Nice.
Broncos team, who, by the way, I'm not overly impressed with. And you just sit there and be like, oh man, Minnesota and Denver, that's two tough road environments. You
Denver,
don't get to
Minnesota,
sit.
by the way, just Minnesota just lost to Pittsburgh, right? And they were really controlled for 3 quarters,
They were
and
running all, Pittsburgh was running all
with
over
Kenneth Gainwell,
Minnesota,
by the way.
running all over them. It's just unreal. It's unreal. And like,
It's
it sucks to be so doom and gloom about it,
I
but
don't
like,
want to be. You guys, for those of you who, I mean, the five of you out there who listen to all these shows, like I was positive all offseason. I was like, look, I think that they could put it together this year, get back to the playoffs, and look, I think this is the last thing I'm going to say before we do our kind of divisional roundup and then look ahead to the massacre incoming next week. This game in particular, but looking more likely like this season, is just turning into an organizational failure. And yes, heads will probably roll. Zach's might. But at the end of the day, if Duke Tobin is still around after this season is over, they're not going back to the Super Bowl. They're not winning the division. I don't see them having success with Duke Tobin in a front office position. You know how long Duke Tobin's been there? Since 1999. It's a girls and boys club in that front office, and it will continue to be because that's how they operate.
they're family.
They're a family. You got the Blackburns in there, Katie and Troy. You want to know, do you want to find two people to blame for all the contract shenanigans? Those are your two guys right there, right? They don't give a damn about winning. They continue to cut costs. They continue to push negotiations to the very last second. And I gave them their credit in the offseason because they paid the right people money. But clearly, they also failed to invest money in certain areas that there absolutely needed to be investment in. And they had money to do it. And that's the last part is what makes the rest of that so much worse.
Yeah. No, I don't have much more to add. I agree. Like when you aren't proactive with Trey, when you aren't proactive at addressing major glaring needs like the guard position all offseason, this is what you get. You don't get to act surprised when this all falls apart when you're a quarterback who puts on a superhero cape week in and week out and wills your team to victory, gets hurt and goes down, and then guess what? All these holes that he covers up week in and week out are right in front of your face. You don't get to act surprised. Because guess what? People who actually watch the games and pay attention to it, it's right in front of your face, even when Joe Burrow's on the field. So you don't get to act surprised. You don't.
I
You just,
agree. It's
it's so frustrating.
It's it's ridiculous, and I am right now in the camp that
Overtime.
everybody. No, I'm right now in the camp that everybody should roll. Like, I think they just need you need to clean out at this point. And I'll say I said this last week, and I'll say it again. I'm not again. I don't want look. Zach Taylor will not be fired until the end of the year if that's what it comes to. I don't even know. Like if they do end up having if they find a way to turn it around, I think they'll probably stay because they'll use the Burrow injury as an excuse. But if he does leave, I, who do they hire? Like I think it's a
Jeff Minter,
very. I would like
I,
Minter.
I
I
would,
like
I
I
would,
like Jeff Halfley in Green Bay, but
I
like,
don't want to have this combo, but I'd rather have a defensive minded guy who could hire an offensive coordinator. That's all I'll say.
well, I
If
keep
that,
Dan Pitcher, but um,
that's me
yeah,
assuming Dan Pitcher's gone.
that's fair. I don't know what else to do. Let's talk about the division. You know, the Bengals are struggling right now, but Baltimore's in trouble. They are just ravaged by injuries at the moment. Nnamdi Madubuike is out for the year with a neck injury. That's a brutal loss for that team. Um, Roquan Smith is out multiple weeks. Nate Wiggins went down at the end of that game. Lamar Jackson left this game. Did he quit on his team? Question mark. Is
I
that
think it was
the?
No, we're not doing this. I just
I like to peddle. I like to peddle narratives when I'm hate watching. So
I
you
think it was
know,
one of those situations where the game was out of hand. He might have tweaked something. He didn't want to push it because the game was already over, and
yeah. I
he's
mean,
in
I
it for the
agree.
long haul.
But again, the Chiefs, 37-20,
I was
they
gonna
won
say
that
it
game.
doesn't. I mean, they
It could have been. It was more like a 38-3. They just dominated
dominate.
this game, start to finish. The Chiefs are back, by the way. Shocker. Um, but yeah, I mean, Baltimore just they don't. It's a struggle right now. Cleveland, they're in the same boat as the Bengals. It's just
Cleveland's Cleveland.
terrible. They look lifeless on offense. I would not be surprised, by the way, if Dylan Gabriel starts this week. That is the rumor that is kind of floating through the Cleveland circles right now. That Dylan Gabriel's gonna start pretty soon. And look, Joe Flacco's looked lifeless, so I wouldn't blame them.
I think
It's
Grayson Wolf had a good take. Our buddy had a good take. It's like give him 2 more weeks because you throw him to the Wolves and then you throw him into an international game. Like you want to give your rookie quarterback a nice, comfy start at home. But
yeah, I
I
agree.
would
And then, I mean, look, if Gabriel doesn't play particularly well, how quickly will that crowd start baying for Shador Sanders? Pretty quickly, I think, if Gabriel doesn't look good. Let's go to Pittsburgh, where I guess they're probably the only team in the AFC North right now who feel pretty good about themselves. They won three. They won a 24 to what was it?
it was
24 to
24-21.
21, right? They tried to throw that game away pretty late. They made some bad mistakes in the fourth quarter, kind of let Minnesota back into it when they controlled the first 3 quarters of that game. But the defense found a way to get it done.
As they
I
always
don't
do.
know. I don't know what the extent of Jalen Ramsey's injury is. I don't know if it was just a slight tweak or if it's like Roquan Smith, where Roquan Smith's probably out 3 to 4 weeks, if it's something like that. But they're getting Aaron Rodgers' fine version. Like he's not an MVP anymore, but he's not as bad as Russell Wilson was. So you're getting and good enough quarterback play. Now, look, the Steelers haven't played, fantastic teams yet. Um, they haven't played a divisional game yet, I don't believe. So, like, plenty still on the table in that regard. But at the end of the day, right now, they look like the only team in the division that kind of has their ducks in a row. So,
Feels like it's theirs to lose.
yeah, at this point, and it might only take 10 wins, but like if Baltimore keeps up this pace with how bad their defense has been, and then with the two Ohio teams more focused on baseball than football, but there's no real reason to look at it. Big one for the Reds today. Big one for the Reds. They got the Dodgers in LA. Our boy Jack Demler is going to try and bring home a W.
Boots on the ground.
It's on the ground for Coach. Um,
Lions next week.
Jared Goff, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jamison Williams, Penei Sewell, that great offensive line.
You didn't even mention Jahmyr Gibbs and David
I
Montgomery,
did
who
not
might
mention.
combine for 3,000 rushing yards next Sunday.
Yep. I'm gonna go with a final score of 42-13. That's gonna be my prediction. I'm only
Um,
half joke. I'm only like half
I'm
joking. Like
gonna
I
go.
that's genuinely my prediction. Like
I'm gonna
on
go.
what planet is it any better than that? Based on what I've seen the last 2 weeks. I mean, look, Detroit's defense is probably not as good as the last two defenses they've seen, if we're being 100% real. But like, what difference does that realistically make? Like, are they just gonna, is Jake Browning just gonna snap his fingers and turn, Anthony Munoz out there at left tackle? Like, it's just not happening. I just don't see a world where this offense gets to operational. By the way, Aiden Hutchinson's coming into town this week. Hey, he's gonna have a field day, right? DJ Reader, revenge game. You think he's gonna want to have a nice game in Cincinnati, right? I mean, yeah, they're second. I mean, Detroit's got middle schoolers playing in their secondary right now. It's not going to matter because they're not going to be able to get them the ball.
The
I
only
just
way, the only way the Bengals have a semblance of a chance in this game is if it's 47-42.
look. Detroit is down their top two corners. It
And
is
Jamar Chase has 14 catches for 160 yards and 3 touchdowns. Then maybe we're in the game. But I'm gonna go 38-10. Bengals lose.
okay. Okay, so we're in the same ballpark.
I think the defense holds them to a single field goal one time. By the way, before we go, because we don't have a lot of time, Ethan, do you want to hear the Bengals this is the last thing just to end on a positive note. You want to hear their possession chart from last night?
This is not going to be positive in any way.
Field goal to start, points, that's pretty good. Then they
Now,
went
the first drive wasn't bad.
yeah, yeah. Then they went punt, 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 Ended the half on a knee, not a punt. Nice. You like that? All right, we'll go second half. Punt, 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 punt. That was their
That
possession.
wasn't That was not positive at all. That was very negative. That
Oh
was
man, dude.
terrible.
I'm broken. I'm broken inside.
I don't know what I don't know. Look, the final thing I'll say, I don't know what needs to change. Can you like who do you fire? Who do you hire? I
Go
your
Reds.
guess is as good as mine, man.
Go
The
Reds.
Reds.
Hunter Green on the
Can you
mound today.
believe that'll be how we end this show? Can if you had told a Cincinnati sports fan that on September 30th you would be more invested in the Reds than the Bengals, they would have laughed at you. Would have laughed at you.
Yeah.
And here we are.
Hunter Green
The
taking
Reds have a
some pride.
playoff game. The Reds have a playoff game at 9 p.m. tonight, and the Bengals season is over.
In week 4.
In week, I almost cursed. In week 4. We try to keep this podcast clean. Try to
In
keep
week
it clean.
flipping 4, dude.
Week mother trucking 4.
But we'll
So
keep trucking along.
we will. We will keep pushing. We're gonna do this every week. We might do a live show on Monday.
Oh,
We
that'd
could
be
do that. We'll
good.
most likely be together after watching the
Yeah, but
disaster we're gonna
Ethan
watch.
and I will be in Cincinnati on Sunday,
Yep,
so
we will be there.
pray for us.
Yeah, with a friend of ours who's a big Lions fan. Sure, it's gonna be a lot of fun having him in town.
I'm telling you right now, I wore my orange Joe Burrow jersey the past 4 weeks. So it's getting retired. The black Jamar Chase jersey is coming out. We need a mojo
I don't even
shift.
know if I'm gonna wear a jersey.
We
I don't have the
need,
faith.
we need a mojo shift. Come on,
I
boys.
might just wear. I don't even know. I don't have like. I might just wear. I don't know. I don't know.
Wear a Reds jersey, dude. Just wear a Reds jersey.
Might wear like maybe I'll just wear an FC Cincinnati shirt.
They're doing pretty
They're
well.
pretty good too.
They're
They
good.
might win the
Because
Supporter
guess what?
Shield.
They got people who care in that front office.
They
They want
do.
they
They could
want
take a
winners.
the Bengals front office could take a leaf out of that book.
Oh, we're off the rails, man.
Just don't take a leaf out of the Reds book.
We're winning tonight.
I hope
3-1
so.
Reds win.
I'm just saying
3-1.
the hey look, the Mets have a $1.1 billion payroll and the Reds have a $120 million payroll. That's about 900% less. And they made the playoffs. The Mets didn't.
Can't put a price on grit.
No, you can't. That'll do it for this week's show. We'll be back next week. We'll see if we'll do it live. We'll try and do it live best
Yeah.
we can. Um, but until then, we're gonna watch football and we're gonna enjoy. Hopefully, if the Bengals turn around, we'll try. We'll see what they can do this week against the Lions. But I'm not supremely confident. But that'll do it for this edition of the Jungle Fever podcast. That's Aiden Crowley. I'm Ethan Sarge saying so long. We'll see you next week.